Hey everybody, welcome to Fractured Focus, episode number 19, the show where we obsess about everything from geek culture to nerd news, along with random topics for discussion. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Gordon, alongside my brother, the illustrious Dan Gordon. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing super, thank you. Super.
This is going to be the best episode ever. Coming in live from the great state of Nebraska, Matt Swinehart himself. Matt, you ready to talk some geek news?
I am.
There's just a lot of energy flowing from all three of us tonight. Let's channel it and see if we can make something magic out of it.
Exactly.
First topic of the show. Dan and I went to go see Ghost in the Shell. It was magical.
Just changes your life.
Yeah.
Walk out that theater a different
The
person
box
altogether.
office would say different, but
Yeah.
We're going to get into that. For those of you watching, this is non-spoilery. We're not going to spoil anything that happened in the movie. We're just going to talk about our impressions, talk about a little bit of Ghost in the Shell in general. I myself have
we
never
get a
seen.
prune juice rating.
Yeah.
We will not. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see. I mean, we'll have to do that at the culmination. That has been the running. What do we call that? The mascot of the show.
What,
The
second
prune
or
juice
third
guarantee.
episode in?
Yeah, exactly. I myself have never seen Ghost in the Shell like the original. I'm aware of what it was about. I remember when anime started getting big on Adult Swim, where I saw a lot more people get into it towards the early 2000s. Both of my brothers are big into this kind of stuff. I remember when you asked me to go, I was like, I don't
Way
know.
to step out of your comfort zone.
I
though.
know.
That's a
You know,
raging
I went.
endorsement.
Yeah,
I did.
exactly.
I went.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just like,
good on you.
I didn't think it was going to be bad. It just doesn't speak to me. It doesn't. I don't know. But it was better than I thought it was going to be. I liked it. Again, this is not going to be spoilery, and I don't have the background that you do with it. But my thoughts were that I could tell that it was very much, and I said this to you guys afterwards. It felt like it was an anime that was just shot in live action, like it was shot like an anime.
Shot for shot.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea if it was like a shot-for-shot remake of the original anime, but it just seemed like the scenes, the way that they were shot, reminded me of anime. The way that the movie flowed reminded me of anime. Special effects, obviously, very special effects heavy. Nothing that blew me out of the water, but again, I think we're kind of desensitized to that kind of stuff today when just so many blockbusters are coming out that really just, I mean, Rogue One was unbelievable, and it was cool, but I thought I had a lot of fun watching it. I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel to this. This did get me engaged to want to see more. But the standout for me, above and beyond everything else, was definitely the sound design of that movie. I just thought was not, and I don't just mean the score. I just mean the overall sound design. Really got me engaged. I love that aspect a lot. I liked the movie. Overall, I wouldn't call it great, but one of the things that I told you guys before is it felt like it was very fan service. To being very close, I'm assuming, to what the original Ghost in the Shell would have been. There was a lot of 80s motifs in there. Isn't that when it came out in the 80s?
Early 90s.
Okay. But the thoughts that went through my head were, if they would have taken the original 1986 Transformers the movie, something that we have a lot of admiration for, especially growing up with kids with that movie. It was such just a dramatic shift up from the animated TV series that we were used to. If that would have been done and basically been remade with the exact same story and mirroring a lot of the shots today instead of Michael Bay's, I would have been super fucking happy. That would have been everything I wanted, but I also think that would have created serious challenges for continuing into a movie universe with that, because I don't think people besides myself that were true fans of what that original thing was that we grew up with kids with translated pretty accurately to today without modernizing it or updating it or whatever. It wouldn't have gotten in enough people to come to see it to make that kind of a budget of a movie worthwhile that they would have continued making them, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing with this. I know that the production budget alone was $120 million. It only brought in 19 domestic, 40 overseas its first weekend, which would be considered a dud. That's not even taking into account the marketing budget that went into this movie too. So if this movie's going to make its money back, I think I could see that with home release eventually over time making its money back, but obviously not what the studios wanted. That was my gut reaction, but you're a big fan of the series, or at least anime in general. What did you think about it overall?
I thought, as far as anime transitioning from animation to live action, I think it was a solid attempt. We've seen quite a few worse attempts in the past.
Not Dragon Ball Z.
Waiting for that one. Yep. but yeah, no, it's kind of what you were saying. The way that this movie was put together, it really does cater itself a lot to fans of the anime. There's a lot of elements that you're actually going to see that, like you were saying, are pretty much shot for shot scenes or storyline pieces from either the original movie or the series or a combination of both. But I went into it with the expectation. Obviously, the bar was set pretty low for me for these kind of films.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be easy for me to impress. But I'm sorry, it wouldn't be hard for me to impress. But they were able to do a lot of the things right that I was really hoping that they were going to be able to do. The first one was just going to be trying to establish the setting. Like you mentioned, the visual effects, the society that they're operating in is very future techy. But the way that they designed it, it's supposed to be not like a sparkly clean, if anybody that's seen the trailer for these things, you've seen if you're looking at an aerial shot of the city, you're seeing like huge holographic projections of ads or signage or something of the sort. But when you kind of get down into the city, you see the muck, you see the grime, you kind of see that
kind of Blade Runner,
almost, and the people are tech heavy. The cast that they use as far as the inclusion of Section 9, you see all of Section 9 there in some way, shape, or form.
What's Section 9?
Section 9 is that's the organization that the Major works for.
Oh, okay.
So,
and I saw the movie.
Yeah,
and I don't remember that. Okay, cool.
But they have like those elements to it. They have the element of how do you we've seen something to the sort in the Matrix, but how do you visualize somebody going maybe into a network? How do you visualize somebody kind of interacting either online or something that way that you can see that kind of makes sense? It's
like Hackers, that movie. That's not what hacking looks like, but we got to make it look cool for the movie.
Yeah.
Is that what they did in the original anime? Similar fashion,
more so in the series, you got to see them kind of expand on the concepts a little bit more. The original anime, what you're going to be seeing is kind of some crude 3D, maybe overlaid map images. So it wasn't quite as expansive as what we saw, but as the series kind of took hold after the movies, you saw them actually kind of develop similar things to what we saw in the movie. And again, looking at it now, it's we're not going to see another one of these,
right?
But I'm happy it's out there in the ether. I definitely love to see this thing again, and the casting choices that they made, I know like there was a lot of pushback with Scarlett Johansson playing.
I think she did a great job.
Who was essentially recognized as a Japanese character, but yeah, she did an amazing job with it. The story itself, like I said, it took a lot of pieces from different sources of the manga and the anime, but it was still put together in a way that was still a followable storyline for a person walking in just to watch the movie.
Yeah, it had a good beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, easy to follow. But so overall, it's like I said, it's
easy for us.
Yeah, well, and especially for me.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got what I wanted from this, and it's unfortunate that it didn't really get the traction that they were hoping for. I know after this opening weekend that's what's kind of going to be the make or break. I don't see them really recovering.
Movies don't have a huge second weekend if the first one doesn't. They just don't work that way.
And especially the way that this movie is, I don't see that some kind of underground or some groundswell of buzz that's going to somehow cause this thing to generate the kind of revenue it's going to need.
It's kind of a catch-22. If this would have come out in the late 80s, early 90s, this would have blown everybody away. Just because, again, I think the graphical prowess and the nature of it is so future thinking. But now in today's society that we're in, with the internet being everywhere, whatever, these are constant conversations that we're seeing in everything from video games to everything. Like, where's the future going to go? How's technology going to make us change and all that kind of stuff? That's really getting saturated out there a lot. Plus, you couldn't do half the special any of the special effects back then that you could today with this too. But It was as good as you thought it was going to be, though?
Yeah. I didn't walk away disappointed from it, but also with the understanding that this isn't going to be a higher tier movie that's going to just pull in Marvel moviegoers.
I think that's one of the biggest reasons they probably wanted Scarlett Johansson, right? I mean, she's a known action star, and she's awesome. And the whole, I think, controversy with whitewashing and using her, we're not going to get into spoilers, but the reason stuff happens in the movie, I'm sorry, but it makes total sense. Like, she wouldn't have to, we're not going to spoil that, but
I guess I had some questions.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. I guess in regards to it, I mean, do you think it's just a situation where this movie came out too late and it didn't capture that initial buzz from the first? Or from the original, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, you make a good point because, like the original movie, even the sequel that was released and the anime series, they're a little dated. But I think we talked a little bit about this when we first looked at the original trailer that kind of came out. And whenever I look at it, at the movie for what it was, I just kind of keep seeing it's not something that's going to grab your regular moviegoer. So even if the
kind of doesn't matter when it came out.
Yeah, I mean,
just the fans of this went to go see it, it would be considered a flop. With the budget they had, it has to get more of a mass market if they want to sustain that budget, right?
Yeah, and just it's a movie that's going to appeal to fans almost to the detriment of just the general public. I mean. I
don't know. I'd consider myself in this particular movie or this franchise more in the lines of the general public because I have no background with it or whatever. I mean, here's all I remember from Ghost in the Shell. Commercials on Adult Swim when we were back in college.
Yeah.
Something of a person being inside a robot, or maybe I couldn't remember if it was just a robot, if it has a soul or something like that. I didn't even really know what the premise was. And a guy with little circle lens eyes. Like, that's it. Nothing about that. Again, I'm just not as heavy into the anime stuff. It just doesn't grab me as much. Spoke to me from like, man, I need to check this out. Nothing. It just didn't. I didn't think it would be bad. It just didn't speak to me. It just wasn't my taste. I went into this. I followed the story. Made sense. I think it would actually probably be better today than if it was 5 or 10 or even 15 years ago, because more of your audience today, regardless of their age or whatever it is probably going to relate more to this kind of stuff, like, implants and where technology's going and how fast we're evolving than they would have like 10 or 15 years ago. I still don't think anything could have gotten it to the point of, I just think the premise is so abstract with. And
that was kind of what we talked about earlier, is the fact that it's a heavy part of this, of both the anime and the manga, was that this thing is very philosophical by nature. The stories are philosophical, like what they're trying to address in telling the major story is supposed to it's based around that. It's kind of like, all right, what happens when you take everything human about you and you strip it all down? What does that leave you with? Are you a person? Do you even have a soul? Right. At what point do you kind of cross that line? And then how is that addressed? How is that addressed by the person who's experiencing it? How is it being being treated by the people around them? How do they interpret that? So my concern is that when I first heard this movie coming out, was that they were going to go a little too heavy on that. And when that happens, then you're going to take away what a lot of people are going to see for this movie, and that's kind of which is a cool part, which is the action element, the tech element. Nobody wants to listen to like an hour and a half long lecture on philosophy when they go to the movies.
A lecture on philosophy, maybe no, but those psychological aspects,
you can include them. You can include them subtly. And I think they made a pretty good attempt at trying to get a good balance between, we know that this is an entertainment movie that we're going for. It's not supposed to be kind of high-handed or preachy or overly intellectually stimulating. But there's enough in there, so you can kind of recognize that. Well, it's a facet of the movie. It is kind of, it's going on there. It's not the entire movie, but it's there to kind of give flavor.
When we were walking out of the theater, I remember saying, like, if they wanted to be respectful and really make a movie for the fans, I think the fans would have gotten in this. The best possible version they could have gotten is a live-action version of this. I mean, even looking like an anime, but in live action. To make this a big-budget, successful movie that a lot of people would want to go see, I hear what you're saying, and I think there's a lot of truth to that, because a lot of times when people get too heavy-handed with one, that you lose the audience if you don't keep them engaged with a whole bunch of other stuff. You know who I think that one of the things I said was the only way that they could have made this successful financially to get a lot of people to see this is if they updated it and maybe changed some stuff, which is going to tick off some of your fans. But you know what I would have loved to see direct this movie and maybe update it, maybe even change a significant amount, but keeping the philosophical aspects and maybe even doing some great action and tech stuff. I would have loved to see Christopher Nolan do this.
Yeah, this would be right up his alley, actually.
He's done the Batman trilogy. He can be great at action, but he can also have a lot of thought-provoking stuff be thrown into a movie. Inception,
Memento.
Interstellar, Memento. Yeah. Even The Dark Knight was really thought-provoking. So he has found some way to have that magic of perfect balance of having philosophical elements and deep discussion and great freaking story that makes you think while not detracting from action and great visual spectacle. So that might not have been the movie all the Ghost in the Shell fans would have wanted. And a lot of people are going to complain, especially on the internet. I know. Just trust me. You would have seen it. But I think it would have been possible, but it's kind of a catch-22. Is like, well, who's this for? What do you want to do? Again, if I was a huge Ghost in the Shell fan, or just if someone would have done a similar treatment of Transformers, the animated movie from '86, to put it live action, almost nobody would probably go see it compared to the regular fans, just because it was an '80s movie. I mean, the '80s movie by Stan Bush and Dare and You Got the Touch, like all that stuff. Throw it in, just make it live action and cool with effects. I would have loved that. I don't think it would do the money, that would need to sustain that. And I get that. And
we might be seeing that now.
Say what now?
We might be seeing that now.
What do you mean?
I mean, with the week opening.
Oh, yeah.
With the 19 million opening, it coming in third in the box office, and it was on like 3,000 plus screens.
Right. Yeah, it's bombed. Right.
And they've pretty much called it a flop. I mean, I guess along those lines, I mean, you saw this one. Do you think this is the most successful anime to movie adaptation you've seen?
What other anime to movie adaptations have there been? Besides Dragon Ball, which was kind of joking.
Oh, gosh.
Do you think
Heavy Metal.
What's that?
Or not Heavy Metal, Flux.
Oh, Aeon Flux.
The one that Theron got her hands on.
Yeah. I never saw it. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, that was so bad.
But you know what? Again, that's kind of a challenge because the premise is so, what's the right word? It's so out there, for a mass audience to even get that. I remember even seeing commercials of that when it was on MTV, just a cartoon or the anime or whatever it was, and you're just like,
and it was only ever a short.
Yeah, it's like it's very stylistic. What the hell is this? And if you're already thinking about the source material before you even translate it to the big screen, and you're not going to take many drastic changes with it, don't you kind of think, well, of course this isn't going to be very big if a lot of people watching the show are a cult following, and most people that see this are like, what the fuck is this? So I don't know. Would you recommend people go see it?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like making these kind of the shift from animation to live action is very difficult to do, but this was a solid attempt, and I think it definitely warrants a view.
Yeah, I'm not sorry.
Another movie like this, though, before we end it, Lucy. So if we're talking about Scarlett Johansson, I thought she was great in Lucy.
I thought she was great in it. The story needed some work.
But at the same time, I mean, I think this kind of falls under that same thing. I mean, they're trying to attract everybody with Scarlett Johansson.
Right.
So I guess first off, did she pull it off? And do you think this is kind of like that Lucy thing?
Depends what you define by pull it off, because again, from my perspective, not being a fan or not being involved with the whole should it be an Asian, should it not be,
well, the character-wise, she hits it pretty close, and I think it wasn't because of a lack of ability on her part. I think it's more the way that the Major was written for this. There were a couple of times like watching her in action where it kind of feels like this isn't. It didn't quite feel like the Major. But again, that was more. That was more based off of, I think, story development and how they were writing it, rather than it was the fact that, well, no, she just didn't get it right. And again, we're kind of going spoiler free here, so
right.
Yeah,
I
don't want you guys necessarily.
Yeah, but I'd say it's about a good 85-90% match with what I would expect. So
Okay.
What about you,
So
Matt?
she was successful in playing the role.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Are you still interested in seeing this movie? I mean, you're kind of more into anime than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I guess being a little bit of an anime fan, it was one that piqued my interest when I saw it. Mm-hmm. And
did you watch the original?
I was kind of, yeah, I've seen the original. Okay. I've only seen it like once, but with me, I liked Scarlett Johansson. I liked Lucy, but I didn't think it was a great pairing. And to me, it was kind of like this. If you want to talk about a character, like a movie star out of character, Bradley Cooper in Limitless. Not a role I'd think he could do, but he pulled it off.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So
I thought that was a great.
Yeah. I agree.
Not somebody I would cast in that role. Not a movie I'd expect Bradley Cooper to do, but he pulled it off. Lucy. I thought Scarlett Johansson did well, but I don't think it was her best role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know. I just thought that the story, like the way that it ended, you're just like, that's it. I don't know. I mean, the trailer looked so cool, and I love Scarlett Johansson. The special effects looked amazing, and then it just gets to the end, and you're waiting for this big emotional release, and it's just like, it's over. And you're like, fuck you, man. Where's the promise of I got excitement? This reminds me of Superman Returns. You know, you're all pumped, and you're like, that's okay.
Yeah, like the end of Matrix.
Or that kind of sucked. No. Well, I would tell you, if you're interested in seeing this movie at all, definitely either see it in theaters, or I hope you got a good surround sound system at home that you can crank up, because the sound is what made that movie for me. And seeing that in the theater where you can hear the way it's meant to be heard in the audio, that was like half the experience for me. I loved the sound design of that movie, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's nominated for some kind of award. So I do that too. I don't know. That's cool.
I hope it at least generates some momentum and keeps it.
For what?
Because it is a good storyline.
Yeah.
When you mean generate momentum, you mean like for sequels, or what do you mean?
No, I'm just talking about this movie itself. I know it only did 19, but if it can stay in the top 5 in the box office for the next few weeks, I think it can recuperate its money.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially when you factor in a 5-year plan, which they always do, like what's its return going to be, not just in theaters and over foreign and domestic, but then also the home release and then the distribution rights, whether it be Netflix, whether it be Stars, all that type of stuff. This movie will eventually make its money back, but for something the size of this budget, that doesn't mean shit to studios as far as whether or not you continue with it.
With what we're looking at, I mean, is the 19, is that domestic box office?
That's domestic. Foreign's already like worldwide? 40.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it did half its budget, production budget, not marketing. Remember, the production budget isn't all the money they spent on it. So but regardless, it's not going to get a sequel. I would be shocked if it got a freaking sequel. Be cool if they did modern.
I'd be shocked if there was a sequel anyway.
Yeah, wouldn't it be cool if they did a modern? Well, they set it up that they could.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Be cool if they modernized it and did like a Voltron bring back anime kind of thing for Netflix or something too. So we're just throwing it out there. Speaking of that,
there you
Voltron
go. If they could
season
get that
3
much
got
content
announced today. So
yes, it did.
And I guess they hinted at, what was it, CinemaCon or something like that. They showed a little bit of Prince Lotor's voice. Of course, we didn't get to hear it, but I'm jacked for that too. Cool. Do you have anything else to throw in there on Ghost of the Shell, you guys?
Just when watching it, just remember this is going to be so much better than Dragon Ball, and I just remembered Speed Racer. That was
I never saw that. Was that bad? I mean, the Wachowski brothers did it, who have a love of anime. They didn't do that really well, or what?
Well, it's kind of like what they had to work off of. If you actually watch the original cartoon, it's so. That is,
but they didn't find a niche to make it still cool on its
ridiculous, outrageous characters.
Ridiculous kind of. That kind of.
I think they stayed too much to the anime in a way.
So you're basically giving this a 100% prune juice guarantee that's it's at least better than Speed Racer and Dragon Ball, right?
Yes. So if that's enough to get you into the theater,
if that's the bar for you to watch, go out and see an animated live action movie, you can relax.
Yeah.
You're all in the clear. Well, for those of you that saw it or have opinions on Ghost in the Shell, let us know what you think in the comments below.
Or if you think another anime that you want to see come to movies.
Yeah. Is there any that you guys would like to see? Again, I don't know that many animes, so
it's Vampire Hunter D.
Oh, yeah. That would be a good
Is
one.
that's not
That-
like
yeah.
Castlevania or anything? Is
No,
it?
no, it's an older one, but that's
No,
a
it's
classic.
different.
I know that they've been actually working on this with Netflix right now, and I'm a little worried. But
You mean Castlevania?
no, it's another one. But they're bringing a Death Note live adaptation. I think
And
it's
that's a former anime.
Mhm.
Okay.
They did like a live action version of it, I think, over Japan, but and I think it did well over there. But it's this time again they whitewashed it.
Didn't they
So-
do? Didn't they do a live action of? I mean, it wasn't shot here. Or it was a foreign film. But what's that new anime that's super popular with those giant thing where you can see the veins on their faces and stuff? Titans.
Titans.
Oh, Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan. Didn't they do a live action?
On that, yeah, they did in Japan, and I think it did relatively well.
Really? Did you guys ever get into that?
Season.
It's a huge anime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did season 1, I think, and then I read the manga through. God, for a while. Well, enough to. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. That one kind of fell off a little bit for me.
We can't.
Last Airbender.
Oh,
That's another one. I loved that anime.
yeah.
And the movie was horrible.
The anime or the I mean it was a cartoon, well, American anime, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah, but that like won a lot of awards. I
Yeah.
mean, Dave Filoni did that, didn't he, before he did Star Wars
It was
Rebels?
really good. I mean,
Clone Wars?
the actual cartoon was good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I heard that
There was
constantly.
one other
The
one.
movie.
I'm trying to think.
Oh.
It was when I was talking about Vampire Hunter D. I was thinking about it.
Well, it's not. We can't end a topic properly unless we derail and talk
Yeah.
about 3 other things that are similar too. So.
Well, I believe, yeah. I mean, we need to trail off in the proper way. It'll probably come back to me in one of the other episodes. So watch all 4 of them in case it does come back.
Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Thank you.